Hello, Eternal Life fans. I am with my friend Raw Matt. You don't go by Raw Matt anymore, do you?
Not really.
What do you go by now?
That's how you can find me on Facebook, I guess.
You go by Wraith.
Yeah.
Wraith.
Perfect name for the cemetery here.
Yeah. Why'd you have your name be Wraith? Why is that your alias now?
It's just it's got a lot of reasons for the nickname, really. I guess knowledge being the most important thing in my life, and being here at the cemetery is kind of another good reason to have knowledge be another determining factor for why everyone is alive. And a wraith is something, a specter, something that's an entity that we don't quite understand. It's stuck in between either realms or realities. Scientifically, we don't know exactly what they are. They exist, they don't seem to die, they don't seem to be alive. We don't really know what they are. It's just a fascinating aspect of life that we just really can't answer. And death is another one of those factors. So many places around the world have their own idea of what happens at death. And science can't clearly determine anything. It's the reason we have so many denominations. It's why we have atheist and agnostic. And the only thing that we really know is that this person right here is dead. And they lived a life that we don't know, we don't understand. They loved, they had bad days, they had good days. We can't ask them. We don't know. They could have. This is a library this person had in their head, and they died, and it's gone, and it's gone forever. And we can't access it. We don't understand what's going on. We don't know. And I find that very fascinating and intriguing that we're to the point right now in reality and in life where the end of aging is at hand, and we will see death eradicated, and all of this almost will have been for nothing, but yet everything, because it's what led us to where we're at today.
Do you think there'll be a point in the future when death is completely eradicated, where like nobody dies, or do you think people still be dying from other causes, accidents and stuff like that?
They'll still, it's an unavoidable aspect right now that we don't really I see an into, simply because let's say that our consciousness is something that's downloaded. Then what happens if it's where we die before it's downloaded? What happens if there's a lot of possibilities. So I would say that death will always be something that'll be there, and it'll never be completely eradicated. So sadly, it's not anything that we can totally eradicate, but then again, that's my limited mind as with what I see and perceive in our future, that if we're able to clone each other and then somehow manipulate concepts, there's still the aspect of what we don't know, and that's the spirit, or the nefesh. And it's the consciousness. We don't know where it resides. We don't know what exactly it is.
How do you know there is a spirit?
I guess we can presume that there would be a spirit based upon mass consciousness from around the world. People have always believed it. Now that doesn't make something right. A lot of people believe that the world was flat and being carried on the back of a giant turtle. That's not exactly true.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to presume that if we go back to the origins of religion, and that's the best thing to do with nutrition, it's the best thing to do with history repeats itself, it's the best thing to do for almost all things, our foods, all of it. So if we go back to the original, we can find that the spirit or the consciousness has always been around, and it's something that's been part of human history from the very beginning. And so that gives me a little bit of confidence to believe that it is something tangible and something real, and just not yet testable in a laboratory yet.
So do you think the spirit survives the death of the physical body? What do you think happens when someone dies? What happens to their consciousness?
Because you said think, I guess then it goes to a personal reason. So for somebody to believe me for this when I have no ability to prove to them, I think myself that it does. And the reason that I think it does is because of the mere fact that our consciousness is attached to us. The best way that I could describe it would be like the movie Tron. Everyone has this disc placed on their back, and it collectively gathers their life experience. and if that's removed, they die. And that would be like the tangible effect of the consciousness that's within us that's unseen. So I can relate the two almost to being like that.
Where do you think their spirit goes when they die?
If we're going to go scripturally, it says the spirit of every living creature returns to the Creator who gave it. Now, again, that's using biblical terms, but then again, that also doesn't relate to time. Our Creator isn't refined to time. That's why He was able to take prophets both forward and backwards and show them everything. And we're refined to time. We think linearly, so we only want to know when something happens, and we can only think a little. We remember the past and we think about the future because we're caught up in time. Time isn't something that's worried about in the next life. So as far as where do we go and when do we go, that's more the answer that I would give. And where we go is nothing but the ground. And the death is referred to as a sleep. And when you're asleep, there's no real consciousness going on. And if there is, they're in the realm of dreams. And they're not a perceived thing that's very well, that you will wake up and remember all your dreams. Nobody does. So I find it very fascinating that death is related to that. And you die and you go into sleep, and we await a resurrection time.
I see. So, do you think your physical body has to be resurrected for your consciousness to activate again, for you to be a conscious person?
That's a good question, because I would go as far as to say no, simply because what happens to the person who's drowned in the depth of the sea, or a person that's been burnt to ash? Their body isn't a physical, tangible thing that can be made whole again. However, yet in the next life, it says that we're given a new glorified body, and that's down the line in every scripture, that we return as the best we can be in a human form. And that's interesting. A lot of people believe that because the Messiah came back and he had the holes in his hands, and he pointed to his ribs where he was pierced, and that's what made doubting Thomas actually believe when he was able to see the wounds. I guess we can get our body, and it can be in perfect health.
Okay, so if you think that when you die, your spirit goes on, why do you care about avoiding death so much? If you think that your spirit's gonna go on anyways, even if you do die.
That's a great question, and I can answer that in multiple variety of ways. A good one would be we were given a body that was created to glorify our Creator, and the original humans were not born to die. It says man was created to never die, and sin brought death into the world. And just because our world is full of sin doesn't mean that we have to partake in it and be part of that reality whatsoever. We make our own reality. We make everything. Our mind is the most powerful thing, and it's what allows us to choose bad and good every day. It allows us to choose what we're going to put in our mouth and how we're going to live our days. And I would go as far as to say that our next life shouldn't have to be something that's so worried about. And if this life lasted forever, because this earth was created for us. If it was created for us, then why do we have to die? Does that make any sense? The earth was created for mankind, but you're going to die and go somewhere else. What? I don't connect the dots to make sense of this. I can find multiple scriptures that tells us that the earth was created for us, that we were created to not die, and many of these things that point to life being an abundant thing, that sickness and disease. How can we glorify our Father in heaven if we ourselves are sick? How can we help others if we're sick and decrepit? We just can't.
So I take it, so you believe in a God. Why? What's the main reason you believe in God?
Well, I wasn't raised to believe in God. I wasn't indoctrinated. I never was taken to a church growing up. I learned, and my knowledge was allowing me to gain faith as the more I studied, because I can find validity in the words. And as I read through the Bible, I go, there's a lot of links that I can't connect. There's places where it says one thing and then it conflicts over here. And then I hear people, no, it's the divine word of God, it can't be wrong. And I just couldn't believe it. So I started to keep studying, and I would delve into it. And again, I went back to the original writings, and everything started to make more sense. And it was able to make me believe in it simply because of how I was able to understand it. When I eat good, I feel good. When I reap what I sow, basically. And as I was reading through these things, they made sense to the point where the more I practiced what I was reading, the more I could feel it, the more it made sense. So I can connect the dots that way.
So let's talk a little bit more about death, since we're in the cemetery here. We got Willie over there. So what is the worst thing about death in your opinion?
The worst thing about it would probably be a loss. There is nothing that you gain from death. A lot of people are under the expectation and the desire so much to die, to get rid of their aches and pains, to hope that heaven is real. It's a hope. It's a crossed finger saying, I know the next life will be better, because how can it be worse than this one? And they're just kind of I don't know.
Wishful thinking?
Yeah, it's wishful thinking. That's a good way to describe it. Yeah.
So you're saying, like, you don't know that there's an afterlife. You'd want there to be. You'd want there to be a heaven.
Absolutely.
But you're not sure, and you admit that there might not be.
Absolutely. If somebody was going to believe what I said, that means that I would have to prove something to them. And because I can't, then my word should be taken with a grain of salt. Sea salt, in preference. However, I know what I have read, and this is all that I have to go by. And I know that the dead are here and laying in the ground beneath us, and they are taking no part of anything. We don't know that they're anywhere. There's no contact with them. They are gone. If their consciousness is somewhere else, we can hope that it's better, but that's all we can do is hope. And we don't even know if they can hope. The book of Job says their love, their fear, their knowledge, it is all gone, and they will never partake in anything again under this sun. So, as far as the good things about death, there are probably few of them. It gets rid of agony for people that are in agony. There's a lot of people that commit suicide because their life is so bad. So I guess it's good that there is a way out for them. But for most people, tomorrow is a better day. And a lot of people that committed suicide that I had seen, they did it because of an emotion. They did it out of something that I'm sure if they would have just stayed alive, they would have regretted later. They always forget that the next year, the next day, they can always be better. But they don't know. They react. And a reaction is one of the worst things that we can do, because it's based on an illogical, emotional feeling.
Yeah, like suffering is temporary and death is permanent. So
correct.
You should hold out and not kill yourself, even no matter how much you're suffering, right? You should just always hope that it's going to be better in the future and just keep on trying to live forever.
That's the word right there, is hope. There's people that see no hope. There's people that don't see a better tomorrow. And I guess that's why death would be considered a good thing. Now, as far as a bad thing, I would imagine that every living animal, if I grab it and start squeezing it to death, it'll fight to live. From a chihuahua to an alligator, it's going to live. It doesn't know the difference. It just knows that I don't want to die. It knows that death is bad. It's wrong. It shouldn't be that way. Now, we're caught up in a system where everybody just sees chaos. They see animals killing animals and a food chain. And that they take that as, oh, see, it's just death is part of life. Well, it was never like that. If we were to go read scripture, we find that, even in the next life, the lion will lay next to the lamb, and that there will be no more death ever. And the commandment was, thou shalt not kill, or actually, thou shalt doeth no murder, because they know that these things are wrong. Death is bad. There's nowhere where you find death being a good thing. Even the apostles, they were killed and they were martyred, and they knew that there was another life for them, and they fought against it. They would run from towns that were trying to kill them. The Messiah hid, and most of the towns he went, they didn't accept him, and he left. Why? He knew his purpose. He didn't want to die yet. He was on the cross. What were his last words? My Father in heaven, how can you have forsaken me? You know, it's actually a song he was singing, but it's irrelevant right now. I'm just saying that his actual words were still, why have you forsaken me? He wanted to live. We all want to live. So I can find very little to show that death is a beneficial arrangement for man. In any religion, in any world, and everyone cries when somebody dies. Everyone's upset. Everyone's at a loss. Everyone loses when someone dies.
So, do you fear death? Why or why not?
It's easy to say no with pride and ego and vanity and like arrogance, and to say I'm not afraid to die, but that would be illogical. Everyone would be afraid to die. I do a lot of things that are immature myself, so I put my life at risk a lot more than other people. I tend to like to fight, and I do extreme sports. I'm an adrenaline junkie, so though I portray that I don't care, I do, because why does adrenaline hit the body? Because of fear. So I like the adrenaline effect, so I do things that are risky, but I think that everybody and everything should have fear of death, and I myself try to do things now that limit that risk. I don't even like to drive because of the risk of somebody killing me. I don't like to fly because it endangers our life. It brings life expectancy down. I don't like to do things that limit my capacity to live forever.
Heck yeah. Me too.
Good.
So you think the fear of death can help you survive? That's what I think. I feel like the fear of death is a big, it's like my superpower. It helps me, it motivates me, it keeps me alert to the dangers.
It could, but because there's fear, now there's stress. I'm a big proponent of people getting rid of almost any stress in their life. That even comes with responsibilities. And the more keys that fall off your keychain, the better your life is going to get. The more of your debt that you can get rid of, the comfort of life becomes better. These things extend your life. It's the reason wine and smoking actually have some potential to actually help your life. Even though they diminish your lung capacity and blacken and cause heart problems, they take stress away. So they actually extend life in some way. That's why wine drinkers do so good, as opposed to smokers. Of course, there's a lot more side effects with the chemicals and the tobacco that they do.
What if it's actually the stressful impact of the wine and the smoking that makes them do better? Like, what if, you know how like a weed does better, it's more stronger because it has so much stress. It has to, to create all these defenses as a reaction to the stress,
that it comes
of
under
the environment, right?
Yes.
So, and there's this principle called hormesis, where it's like when you expose the body to certain stresses,
it adapts.
It has to adapt and become stronger.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So, what if stress? Do you think stress could actually maybe have beneficial effects for longevity as well?
Only a certain amount. And I say that simply because of the fact that you get around sick people and they say the same thing. You're around a lot of sick people, it makes your immune system stronger. To a certain degree. Nurses have the shortest lifespan that there is out of any profession in the world. Why? Because they're around disease and sickness all the time, and it affects them, and it constantly bombards their immune system. So being around that much sickness doesn't benefit them. There's a point to where it actually does, and I think stress to the human body also has its point. It has its defining factor of where too much is too much. So I'm under the fact that there's enough stress in life as it is. We don't need to add more to it. We need to be learning how to get away from it. We live in a rat race world where money is king, and we are slaves to a lot of things. We think we're free and we're not. You can try a lot of things. Go walk down the street naked. See how long you make it. You're not free. So there's a lot of rules and obligations and things for us to follow. So the more of these things we can do to relax in life and to calm down and to back away and to make your own me time, you need to do that. So don't add more stress. But a fear of one thing, that's fine, because that makes you conscious and aware of it at all times. If you forget and you neglect something for one moment, then that's when you can trip. So it's good to be alert and aware. There's no doubt about that. And if that's your only stress in life, then that's awesome. Then that's fine.